this is not going to be a review of the latest Basketball Wives episode. Here is why. 2 reasons. 1, they gave me absolutely nothing. Like, what happened this episode? We got 2 new girls who, the only reason why they're there is because one of the women used to date Phoebe's current man, and next week Phoebe is going to say that she's a stalker, which is why, in my opinion, Phoebe is not on the trip. She's not quarantining. She doesn't want to be embarrassed by this new chick. It's still not enough. No shade. The new girls are beautiful, but they're dry boots. Nice, sweet girls, dry boots. All of the additions to the show, dry boots. And I think they know that. They don't care because I think this show is on its last legs, and here is why. The production and people involved in this show will never admit that they are constantly perpetuating colorism on one of their main cast members. They would much rather tank their show than tell the truth. This is what's happening. Now everybody is moving to Atlanta and Houston. I think Shawnee is probably going to try to do a Basketball Wives Houston or a Basketball Wives Atlanta. I think she's pretty much done with this show because of the colorism, not angle, but because of the colorism that happened on the show, which she is a part of. I think she no longer wants to try to fix the situation because she doesn't want to take accountability. So she'll just run from it, cancel this, and start something somewhere else. I honestly believe she has some kind of deal with VH1. I think this is Basketball Wives LA last season, and you know what? Good, because every week, not just myself, a lot of reviewers are watching this show and coming from the show with the same thing. This cast is colorist, and they are mistreating OG because of it. They are mistreating OG because of the color of her skin and because of her ancestral features. It's exactly what's happening. It's colorism and it's featureism, and they continue to gaslight us every week by saying what we're seeing is not what we're seeing. And they are being extremely stubborn because, guys, remember the reunion? Like, right after the reunion, Shawnee had to sit down with that guy who should not have been the host because he was just too much of a fanboy to like really lead. Mark Lamont Hill, yeah, he was too much of a fanboy to like really lead the conversation. Because of the viewer reaction, you know, Shawnee sat down with him, and there was this whole colorism conversation, and you know, Shawnee was going to do better. Then we get to this season, and you guys are just being awful. You guys are just being awful. While, you know, you guys are filming through a pandemic, while you're having conversations about police brutality and George Floyd, you're still coming together as a group of Black women being completely awful to this Black woman because of the color of her skin and her features that you dislike because you are colonized people, colonized and oppressed people in a white supremacist nation. You think she's hideous. So instead of doing the work, decolonizing your mind, you would much rather tank this show and come on our TVs for an hour every day and be the worst human being that you could be. I'm so disgusted and disappointed. I don't know them, but for some reason, I just expected better. I expected better, and I was hoping for better because of that conversation that Shawnee had with Mark Lamont Hill. But I just think because, in my own opinion and feelings, I think because Shawnee knows that the show is getting canceled, she doesn't want to breathe any life into it. She doesn't want to put more into it than she needs to, because her mind is already in Houston. You know, her mind is already, you know, probably working on and building something there. She could care less about what's going on here. So there's no reason for her to fake like she actually cares about OG, because there's no renewal coming. So instead of fixing the situation with OG, she'll just quit the show. Disappointed. Very, very disappointed. And the fact that a Black woman created a platform in which a non-Black woman was able to not only abuse Black women, but also abuse and be extremely racist to one of the cast members. And for you to come on this show and say, oh, well, I have favoritism, that's my girl, I'll protect her. Even through those awful things, you continue to protect this girl, even at the expense of your show. I don't know if she knows where the bodies are buried or if you are just a friend to a fault, but this makes absolutely no sense why Shawnee is protecting Evelyn like this. I don't get it. For your coin, like, I don't understand, which again makes me believe that she's moving Basketball Wives to the South. I think she's doing a Basketball Wives Houston and Atlanta. That's what I think is happening here, because as a businesswoman, you would not allow this woman to tank your show this way unless you know that the show was already tanked. Because not only is Shawnee supporting Evelyn's colorism, she's also giving her the platform to double down on her colorism and villainize OG, which is happening here with Evelyn getting a lot of screen time to talk about how she's not a racist, able to change the narrative, right? Because now we're going with racist. Now everybody's saying, oh, she's not racist. Oh, this isn't racism. They removed the colorism from it, right? And they went to the umbrella. We're not talking about the umbrella, right? We're talking about one of the components under the umbrella, which is colorism. Racism is the umbrella and colorism is right up under there, right? But they want to go straight to the umbrella. Why do you go straight to the umbrella, which is racism? Because that is such a triggering and very distinctive terminology. You see it, you know what it is, you can call it out. It is racism, right? Colorism, because it's not talked about enough, because it's not taught enough, you really can't call it unless you are somebody who has been victimized by it or has been a victim of it. Also, our people gaslight each other about it like it doesn't really, happen within our community. But what they'll jump to is racism, because you know what racism is and you can call it out. We've been taught, we know exactly what it is. We have 400 years of examples. We know exactly what it is, right? So you can't call it that, because that's not what she's doing. Is colorism a child of racism? Absolutely, but it's not racism. So they'll jump to racism and be like, oh, she's not being racist. I've never known Evelyn to be racist. We're not talking about racism, baby. We're talking about colorism. We're talking about featureism, which is something that is not well known. Let's be very clear. There are a lot of people, a lot of reviewers who are just like, I didn't know what colorism was and I didn't know what featureism was. And as somebody who has experienced both of those things, I can sit here and get upset and be like, you're gaslighting me, because probably a majority of them are. But honestly, there are a lot of people who are just ignorant to that. And a lot of our people who are ignorant to colorism and featureism. Well, now you're going to get an education today. Colorism, for all the people who don't know, especially the Blacks, colorism is a prejudice or discrimination against individuals with a dark skin tone. Hello, typically among people of the same ethnic group. Now, it is definitely racism if Evelyn is mistreating OG because of the color of her skin, right? But Evelyn is an Afro-Latina. That's what she's going with, and that's what the whole show is going with. That's what everybody is saying. She's an Afro-Latina, so I'm not going to take her ethnicity from her. If that is what she's claiming, it's colorism. Now, if you're a whole white woman with an accent, it's racism. Which is why I think Evelyn is now going with being Afro-Latina so that she can say the N-word freely and not be called on it and not be called a racist. Featureism, a derogatory term, a form of architectural design based around certain accentuated features. So this white African ancestral nose, these full lips, then you put it with this dark skin, and baby, we got a colorism, featureism party, okay? So Evelyn, when you use an orangutan emoji to fight with OG, colorism and featureism, that's where that comes from, because what you are saying is that she looks like an animal to you because of her features, because of her skin color. Because another thing that colorism and featureism does as a Black woman, it takes away our humanness and our womanhood, which allows people to justify our harm because we're dangerous and not quite human, which was something that was used back when my people were enslaved, especially about the women. You can rape them and it's okay because they're not quite human. They won't feel harm, they won't feel pain, and those things still happen to us today, which is why you probably don't know it, but if somebody with a darker skin tone speaks to you a certain way that somebody with a lighter skin tone does, and it's probably what you believe is aggressive, you'll get mad at the dark skinned person, right? But you'll think about what the light skinned person said, or you'll be like, oh, it really wasn't like that, because for two reasons. One, you are not intimidated by them. You are not afraid of them because their skin shows weakness. Colorism benefits lighter people in the sense that they get privilege, right? But what's also stripped away from them is any kind of strength that they may have. Colorism for us, darker folks, it just strips away our humanness and any privilege that we could possibly ever have. But it gives us this superhuman strength, which is kind of why I do use the term, but I have a little issue with black girl magic, because we're not magic, you know what I mean? We're not magical. We're just able to persevere through things because nobody comes to help us. Nobody comes to save us, especially when you look this way. Let's get into Kristen and OG's conversation. I watched OG's, she did the whole conversation on her Instagram. She loaded it. I think she got the audio and she was able to load the audio from that entire scene with her and Kristen. OG, thank you for producing receipts, because when you watch the conversation with OG and Kristen on the show, OG seems to be annoyed and very aggressive, right? Because I even was watching the episode and I was just like, OG, calm down. Jennifer is actually trying to help you in, understanding that Kristen actually came over here with, the right intentions. And I will say in the audio, it did seem like Kristen came there for some kind of understanding. It didn't look like that when she took the conversation back. But in the audio, it did seem like she wanted to understand. The conversation went left when it was very obvious that Kristen was gaslighting OG about the situation, saying, I don't understand colorism. I've never experienced it. Racism, but you don't know colorism, right? So she's saying, me and you have the same skin tone. So I'm just confused as to why, I don't understand what it is, but you know very clear. So could you tell me what it is? Kristen, think about that. If a white person said that to you, if they looked you in your face and said, I really don't understand racism, could you explain it to me? How would you feel? Right? That's exactly how OG felt in that situation, where it's just like, I don't understand the pain that I'm causing you. Can you please give me specifics so I can figure out what it is, when you know that this person has some inkling of it. They just don't care about you enough to do the research. So that's where the frustration with OG was coming from, because Kristen was clearly gaslighting her. Because she was being filmed, because she wanted the narrative to go a certain way. So she made herself sound and look a certain way. But if you listen to the hour-long conversation, there were highs and there were lows. And then it got to a low where OG felt like there was not going to be any kind of understanding, because Kristen continued to deny her experience. And she's just like, I did not feel this. I experienced this. Kristen is constantly changing the language and constantly defending the women in the conversation and constantly saying, oh, well, that's not what I meant. I didn't mean to say that your receipts were, mean and scary. I didn't mean to say that. That was edited. And OG was like, nope, not that full sentence. That's exactly what you said. So she was gaslighting her throughout the whole conversation. But all we got was OG, coming after Jennifer and being like, no, it is what it is. I know what I saw. I know what I felt. Do not defend her and do not give her brownie points. If you just see that, you think that OG is not being sensible. But if you listen to the audio, you can see that the girl is frustrated because it's an hour-long conversation and they're just going in circles, because Kristen will never admit anything, will continue to act like she does not know what's going on, and making her feel crazy. And every black person has been in a situation like that with somebody from a privileged community. So for Kristen to sit there and act like this is foreign to her, she doesn't get it, she doesn't understand, is gaslighting OG, which is why that conversation went nowhere. And the only reason why Jackie is saying the things that she is saying is because she wants this, whatever this issue is, this colorism issue, she wants it to go. Not even thinking about her child and the fact that she wrote a whole book about how her mother is colorist. Not even thinking about that, right? Jackie wants to get back into the good graces of the colorist collective. She wants to be with the cool girls, right? So what she wants to do is fix the situation with OG, have OG basically bow down to the ladies and say, well, what happened didn't happen. Let's move forward. But OG doesn't want to move forward because she doesn't want to be gaslit by this group. She wants the truth to be told, and then she can move forward. Because if you listen to the audio on her Instagram, and I will put it in this video, she says, I'm ready to move forward from this. I just don't want my experience to be denied. And that's what the ladies want. Because what the ladies want her to say is that what happened did not happen, so that they could look a certain way, and again, she could be the villain. And OG's not doing that. Jackie is bothered by that because she wants to get with the group again. Jennifer is not bothered by it because she don't ever want to see them women. She's fine, but Jackie wants everybody to be able to mix, because if everybody is not mixing, she got to stay over here and film with OG. She wants to be over there with Evelyn and Malaysia and Shawnee, the cool girls, the Colorist Collective. She doesn't want to be stuck over here babysitting Jen and OG, which is why she had a short fuse with Jen, because she didn't feel like being there with her. She wanted to be in the cool girl house. She didn't want to be with the flunkies. So that's why she's agreeing that Evelyn isn't this and Evelyn isn't that, and oh, well, they called me crazy. How is calling you crazy compared to this woman being called aggressive? Aggressive to the point where they had to have 2 separate studios to film in because they felt that she was a danger to them for nothing that she has ever said or done. Because if we want to go by her words and her actions, it does not amount up to what Evelyn has done. How she stood on tables and smacked women in the face, how she threw wine bottles, how she chased Cece down. The only reason why she was not able to harm Cece is because she tripped. But she's able to sit with the main cast. She's able to sit up there with the executive producer, but OG is put on another stage. Why is that? Why do you fear that she'll actually harm you when you have no receipts of her harming you? But you have every receipt, years of footage of Evelyn doing just that. But she is the one who could sit on that stage and be catered to and defended. It's clearly colorism, but you don't want to take accountability. So because OG is not bowing down to the ladies and making them look good, they're going to continue to not film with her, and they're going to continue to put this narrative that she now she's crazy. Now they're gaslighting her and saying, oh, well, she doesn't know what she wants. That didn't really happen. She just wants to cause conflict and confusion. No. What happened, happened. We all saw it. You want her to say it didn't happen so that you could look good. And she sees it for what it is, and she will not bow down to you. Which is why we're watching this show, to ride for her and support her. I don't know if I'll come back to this. I really, really don't. Because as a person who was dark skinned and who has, my beautiful ancestral features, I feel some sort of way. Because like OG is me, you know what I mean? I'm the one that's gaslit constantly by my community. I'm the one that's being called aggressive. I'm the one that everybody wants to harm and fight when I know that I'm not, in the same lane as, lighter family members or lighter friends. But I know that I'm the one that's always the line of aggression. And as a kid, I didn't understand, but as an adult, I clearly found out why. So I'm fighting racism in the rest of the world, and colorism and featureism in my community. I never get a freaking break. Trainwreck TV is supposed to be my break, and I'm seeing the same thing that I went through as a kid and now as a woman on TV. And I'm seeing these Black women who call this a sisterhood lie to her face and tell her what happened didn't happen. All to protect a non-Black woman. Ain't that about a what? Insanity, absolute insanity. And what was more disgusting about the fact that Kristen not only sat in OG's face and gaslit her, but acted like she wanted to come there to have some kind of peace, right? And I get why OG was a little upset with Jennifer, because she could see Kristen for what she was, right? She knew that she was not coming there to make peace or to learn anything. And I actually thought she did. From listening to the audio, she sounds like that, but then you have footage of her going back, acting like what OG said was insanity. And it's just like, oh no, now it's not colorism, it's featureism, but it's definitely not racism, because Jackie said that it wasn't racism. And just watching her, like the way she relayed it back to the ladies was as if something was wrong with OG. And she's just like, yeah, so she thinks it's this, but it actually is this. And then watching Shawnee, who was a freaking EP of this show, laugh. Like, what was funny about that situation? Completely just start laughing at your big age about this woman's pain. And then say, well, I'm glad you had that conversation with her, because now I know that there's nothing that needs to be fixed. We can have this conversation and I don't need to be around her. Really? That's what you got from that? Really? And then Malaysia saying, oh, now I can work things out with Jackie because I see her wanting to fix this situation. No, Malaysia, you now want to be friends with Jackie because you know where her loyalty is. Her loyalty is to the Colorist Collective. Now you want to make things work. You didn't like her before. You were throwing tables trying to fight her last season. But now all of a sudden, after it is brought back to the group that Jackie denied racism and colorism by way of Evelyn, now you want to be her friend because you know she's trying to get back in and you know where her loyalty lies. OG, you are so much better than this show from the head on down to the PAs. No, I won't do that to the PAs, but you are so much better than this show. And I hope that you get great opportunities out of this. I follow you on Instagram. I love what you're doing there. And the majority of the people who review this show, the majority of the fans got your back, girl. This is so upsetting. It's so disgusting to watch. I'll definitely watch the show to just support her, you know, and if I feel like there's anything on there that, you know, we should discuss, I'll definitely come on here and talk about it. But a review, this show doesn't deserve it. You don't deserve my dark skin review. Like, excuse me, you don't deserve me. You don't deserve my content. If you're going to deny my pain and my experience, then I'm going to deny you free press. Anyway, that's all I wanted to talk about concerning Basketball Wives. Again, don't know if I'll be back to it. Really don't know. Unless it's something that I feel needs to be discussed, then I'll probably do it. But I'm glad that this show is on its way out. It's probably out for good. And I'm glad the people who are a part of this are just ignorant. Just ignorant. And honestly, I don't know why I expected more from a show that only showed Black women being violent and harming to each other. I'm as much as responsible for tuning into this as Shawnee is for creating this and pimping her friends out. That's all I wanted to say about that. If you like what you see here, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. And I will see you in another video for something else. Listen, if somebody is telling you about their personal experience and you don't see it that way because you never had that experience and you don't look like them or come from where they come from, listen, just listen and try to understand. That's pretty much all people want. But denying their lived experience because you didn't see it that way or you don't feel like that happened says a lot more about you than it does about the person trying to get you to understand them. And then you need to think about how you feel when you do that to other people and other people deny your experience. Black people, we know this. We know this. We deal with it on a daily basis from non-Black people. You can't tell me that we can't see it when we do it to each other. I don't believe it. Love y'all. See y'all soon. Bye.